Hello, and welcome back to the Dance Reel podcast. This season has been titled Going Global, and across these conversations, we have explored what it really means to move through the dance world beyond one place, one system, or one identity. We have spoken about dancers relocating across countries, adapting to new cultures, navigating different training, and for many, redefining who they are both within and beyond dance. As I have sat down with these conversations, there is something that has become increasingly clear. Going global is not just a logistical shift, it's a psychological one. It's an emotional one. When dancers move countries, there is often a narrative around opportunity, better training, more exposure, company contracts, a stronger pathway. All of that can be true, but what sits alongside that is something we do not always name clearly. Displacement. A dancer leaves behind familiar systems, language, social cues, and often their primary support networks. They enter environments where expectations are different. Communication styles shift, and in some cases, a whole new language. And the definition of good can change quite quickly. There is an adaptation required that goes far beyond technique. It's relational, it's cultural, and it is deeply internal. Several of the conversations in this season highlighted how dancers begin to shape-shift in these environments. What worked for them, what didn't. They learn how to read the room. They adjust their behaviour to fit the new norms. They manage the tension between staying true to themselves and meeting external expectations. This is not inherently problematic. Adaptation is a human capacity. But when adaptation becomes overextension, something starts to erode. A dancer can begin to lose a clear sense of self, and in high-pressure environments, that sense of loss of self can be mistaken for a loss of commitment. We also spoke this season about the cost of unsafe practices. Undernourishment, overtraining, normalized pain. These are not new conversations in dance, but what has stood out to me is how context dependent they can be. In some environments, these behaviours are challenged and addressed. In others, they are subtly reinforced. And when a dancer is in a new country, a new company, or a new system, their capacity to question those norms can be significantly reduced. There is often a perceived need to comply, to prove worth, to secure position and belonging. This is where leadership becomes critical because culture is not abstract. It is created in daily interactions, in what is correct and how, in what is praised and what is ignored, in what is tolerated over time. Positive leadership, which we explored in several episodes this season, is not about lowering standards. It is about clarity, consistency, and psychological awareness. It is about understanding that high performance and well-being are not competing priorities. They are independent. Another layer that has emerged this season is what happens when dance is no longer the central organising force of a person's identity. For dancers who have trained intensely, often from a young age, this transition out of dance can feel disorientating. There can be a loss of structure, a loss of recognition, at times a loss of community. And if identity has been heavily invested in performance, achievement, or external validation, that transition can carry a level of psychological weight that is not always acknowledged. What I have appreciated in these conversations is the honesty around that transition, the grief that can sit alongside it, the relief in some cases, the rebuilding of self that takes place outside of the studio. This is part of the global conversation as well, because the dance world is not just about movement across countries. It is also about movement across life stages. As I reflect on this season, I keep returning to the one central idea: capacity, what we are asking dancers to hold. When a dancer relocates, adapts to a new cultural expectations, manages physical demands, navigates identity shifts, and in some cases suppresses internal signals in order to stay in the system, that is a significant load. And some dancers manage this well, others quietly struggle. Both experiences are valid, but the system itself needs to take some responsibility for what it is asking. For dancers listening, there is something important here. If you have experienced confusion, pressure, or a sense of losing yourself within these transitions, it is worth taking that seriously. Those responses are not weaknesses, they are information. They are signals that something within you is trying to orientate, adapt, or protect. Understanding those signals can support more grounded decision making over time. For teachers, directors, and leaders, the reflection sits slightly differently. When working with dancers from different countries, backgrounds, and training systems, there is an added layer of responsibility. Cultural awareness, clarity in communication, an understanding of how power dynamics shift when someone is new or unfamiliar within the system. These are not additional extras. They are part of ethical leadership in a global industry. As I close this season, I'm aware that these conversations are still unfolding. The dance world is increasingly interconnected. Opportunities to train, perform, and teach across borders will continue to expand. And with that expansion comes a need for a deeper awareness, not just of technique and performance, but of people. On a personal level, this season has also asked me to reflect my own experiences within dance, the environments I have been a part of, the transitions I have navigated, and the ways in which I adapted and at times over-adapted. There is a level of clarity that comes with time and distance. And with that clarity comes a responsibility to speak about these things with nuance. To everyone who has listened this season, thank you. To my guests, thank you for your openness and your willingness to engage in conversations that sit beyond the surface level discussion. We will soon be moving into the next season, and the intention remains steady to continue exploring dance through a lens that includes psychology, culture, leadership, and lived experience. Stay with the complexity and to keep asking questions that support a more sustainable and considered future for dancers. Thank you for listening to the Dance Reel podcast. I'm Kate Histon. I will see you next season, and in the meantime, let's keep it real. And before next season, if you'd like to stay in touch, sign up to my newsletter at katehiston.com or follow on Instagram, Kate Histon, and there's also the Dance Reel podcast.